Hello, one and all, to the wonderful, amazing PPC Unfiltered podcast. I am your co host, Cory Lindholm. On some part of the screen here, Michael Nadalin from Australia is joining me of MarketLead. Michael Nadalin, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Cory Lindholm. How are you? That's the most important thing. How are you, Cory?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. No, things are great. Things are great. We're hitting the second half of October of 2024 to date this episode a little bit. I'm sure in a year or two I'll have even less hair, believe it or not. So if you're watching this in the future, yeah, I looked pretty good, right? No, yeah, things are good, man. We're gearing up for Black Friday, I don't want to hear your comments, Michael. No comments.
No. I'm just going to say grow a mohawk, mate. Grow a mohawk. Grow a
Working it.
mohawk.
I'm working on it. Yeah. So yeah, we're gearing up for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. A lot of my clients have been trying to spend more in October than in previous years, which I think has been a good learning over the last few years. We don't want to just hit the brakes in October because then we compromise on volume in November. But that's a whole nother subject. But that's
Mm.
kind of where I'm at. So what about for you guys? What strategy changes are you seeing right now this time of the year?
So that's interesting. I reckon we should have a conversation today about the Black
Okay,
Friday stuff, and
let's do it.
more of a healthy debate, because I feel like you and I
Ooh,
would have two very different perspectives on it,
okay.
and looking at it from a different way. But yeah, are you asking more from the e-commerce aspect of like how we're noticing strategies? Ask the
Just
question again, Cory.
generally, yeah, generally speaking, so, you've been doing this a long time. Have you
Yeah.
seen something different this year than what you've seen in years past, gearing up for the November December wave?
Yeah, it's so we're probably about like 60 to 70%, actually probably like 75% lead generation. So
Hmm.
that's very different. In
Okay.
our e-commerce clients are very uh, unique. They sell their own products and they're well-run businesses,
Hmm.
which means that some of the strategies that are commercialized online around Black Friday are just not relevant to the clients and are actually going to be more damaging if we go for that. And I've spoken to every client about this, and we spend more time actually talking about the strategy of it rather than any execution of it, because I feel like there is like this mass hypnosis in the advertising industry around Black Friday. And I think the people who are just like prepare for Black Friday are people who are not actually good at this stuff, because not in a bad way. It's more just like you've. I think people just blindly say Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, or like November, like that type of stuff, without actually understanding the consequences of discounts on a business from their profitability standpoint and their brand perception as well. Because the two things
Absolutely.
that can come up is, number one, most companies, if they're reselling items, the margin isn't strong and they're competing against everyone else who might have a better shipping offer or a better discount because they're a bigger retail. Secondly, if they're their own original products, the profit margin's usually strong, but you're cutting into a profit margin that is probably essential for them because they're self-developing, like they're developing the products themselves, they're doing all the things. So margins in retail are already lean, even if it's your own product, before you're doing advertising costs, shipping costs, fulfillment costs, all these other things. So cutting that profit is silly. Also, it can also create a perception of that, oh, this brand does discounts. Now, if you're a
Hmm.
brand that holds yourself as a high standard, not a high standard, but like as a way as a premium product, if you start
Hmm.
offering discounts, you're training prospects or people who buy from you to delay buying because of because they think they'll get a discount, rather than just going, look, like Lindholm fashion does not discount. So if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy it now. It's better for me to buy it now before it sells out next month. The other thing is, which you a couple of years ago, Cory, just when we were becoming friends, but we weren't doing the podcast, you recommended a book called Confessions of a
An ad
Advertising
man.
Ad Man.
Yeah.
And one of the things I picked up from that book was, when companies run sales, if they look along enough time horizon, they see a spike when they get the sales like volume, but then it'll dip off. So like actually, like over time, if you run the sale or you don't, your sales volume will be mostly the same. Now,
Mm.
I've just said a lot of things right there. I know, because of the type of clients you work with, you will have a very different points to me, and I'd love to hear it. I just know with the clients we've been working with, like, and these are clients spending a lot of money on ads, like a lot. And I know yours do as well. It's, you've got to come at this really strategically because it can impact a lot of parts of the business. It's not just like we'll get more sales, because more sales, you could actually make less money because the profitability is not there.
Very possible. Now, I think actually the one you're talking about, it's not David Ogilvy's Ad Man book, right? It's Confessions of a Pricing Man. I think that's the one I told
That's
you
it.
about.
That's it. That's
That's the
it.
one.
That's
Okay,
it.
okay,
That's it.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for you folks that are curious, you want to read it. What are these two geniuses reading? I'm kidding. I'm kidding, guys. We are very humble over here. Well, I am. Just kidding. The
I'm
author
not.
here, Michael's not. He is admittedly not a humble man, and he's proud of that, of course, ironically, right? The author is Herman Simon, Confessions of the Pricing Man, How Price Affects Everything. So, yeah,
Yeah.
just wanted to give that for the audience out there if you're curious about checking out. Fantastic book, especially if you run an agency and you're looking into how to price yourself and price your services. Absolutely amazing book, an oldie but a goodie. Awesome. So yeah, so back to the Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing. So my point was something that I've been seeing differently this year is the amount of advertisers that have outside of the 2020 anomaly, right? Even 2021 for some anomaly. When we look at correlating spends to transactions, what I mean is spend in October or sometimes even sort of second half of September leading up to how does that spend level correlate with the transactions or revenue that we're getting, assuming sales and the promos and the products we're offering are pretty much the same, right? How do those things track, right? So if we spend, let's say, 10,000 in October in a given month, we're going to run the same 30% off that we always do in November. How has that changed over time? And what if we spent 20,000, 30,000? You can build predictive models for these things. So what I'm seeing is a lot more advertisers, and of course, because I pride myself on the sort of data science knowledge set that I bring to my clients, I'm able to look at these things for them at a really granular level and say, okay, buy a product or buy a campaign type, whatever. What seems to make sense? How much should we be spending? Where should we be pushing the threshold to lead up to November? And so a lot of advertisers that I work with and some that I consult with as well, they are seeing that, spending more in September is already leading to much higher sales in October. That's without any sales. And that's showing some trends also that we're seeing in the sort of advertising world where you're hearing this more. Like we need to be spending more in October. Instead of just pulling out in October and just hitting the brakes, we want to be warming up audiences to then hit those audiences later with an advertisement. And it's going to be much cheaper for us. Instead of it being completely cold and we're fighting everybody for that cold audience in November, think high CPCs, high CPVs, whatever. These are remarketing audiences now, much cheaper, hopefully, if you're doing your job correctly, much cheaper, more efficient ad spending there. And so therefore we can capitalize on the high demand, but cut down on how much we have to spend for each of those clicks or views or whatever. So I am seeing sort of a transcendence over time of it used to always just be like, let's just cut the spends for October because we see conversion rates are down. Rather, we need to be more sophisticated. We need to be looking at it as an omni-channel marketing strategy. We don't want to just cut spend altogether. We probably want to be keeping brand awareness, think Facebook, whatever, relatively high. This also could mean your demand gen campaigns, your YouTube campaigns, whatever is generating that awareness. Let's keep it going to stable or sometimes higher levels if you want to get aggressive and just to test that to see what you can get inside of November. So that's some of the bigger changes that I'm seeing.
Yeah, awesome, man. I had so many things just come through my brain just
Please.
then. So, yeah, wow. Well, number one, you and I are like, we love this report, but in Google Ads, you can see the attribution report, like the time lag or the time path. So from the first interaction to a purchase, and depending on your business, sometimes it's a few days and sometimes it could be weeks. And I've got e-commerce clients that it's usually about 2 weeks. So if you're just wanting to pull that back to the start of November, when is Black Friday? I don't even know. What is the date?
Oh, it's the Friday after Thanksgiving. So that's Black Friday. Cyber Monday is the Monday right after that.
So what's the date of that? We don't have Thanksgiving in Australia.
Right, yeah. Americans, we think everything applies to everybody else in the world. Let's see, Black Friday. Let's just do Black Friday 2024. I think, gosh, I should know these things right offhand. But yeah, November 29th this year.
Yeah.
Friday, November 29th.
So even if you start advertising at the start of November more aggressively, everyone else is. Like the thing is, you're just actually like helping the ad channels make more money. And then you've obviously got the US elections happening as well, where
Yeah.
that's got to is like such a high ad spend that's going to be across YouTube, Facebook, Meta, even Google. Now, Google search is probably not going to be affected. Like if someone's looking for a blue dress, they're not going to see a Donald Trump blue dress or like a Kamala Harris tie. Um, I mix those political people around, is I think it's really understanding your attribution window. Number two is
Mhm.
even when you're priming these audiences for retargeting, which is good, if you're still getting people on their original first few clicks from you, being it like they haven't really heard of you, they're clicking through. People may not have brand loyalty yet, but they may have like product loyalty where they're looking for the product. So it depends on if you're selling your own individual product or you're reselling. If you're reselling something, figure out a way to retarget those people because they're going to be in the market.
Mhm.
And people buying products that you resell are usually going to be the ones who would want a Black Friday deal because they know a lot of retailers offer it. So they're just going for the better price. If
Mhm.
it's an original product that it's yours, for example, you're selling like that NASA jumper and it's like Lindholm NASA jumpers and no one else does it except for Timu. Um, we, what I would recommend is run ads to the page, but then the pages, but make sure you're figuring out a way to capture people's emails because
Yep.
people might go, this is a sick jumper, cool. And then you're just relying on them to remember it or you're retargeting, which you're competing against everyone retargeting. If you can get someone's email address and then you start using your email or Klaviyo flows, when it comes to the Black Friday, you've got a one-to-one relationship with them in their inbox. Now, yes, they're going to be hit up with other people's emails, but there's more likelihood of them seeing an email from you than seeing a retargeting ad because the retargeting is just going to go hectic. And you're
Yes.
going against all the big retailers, like all of
Mhm.
them, especially in the States. So my thing is number one, understand that if you're just turning off ads now and thinking you just turn it back on, Google Ads is not the tap anymore. Like you just don't turn it on, water comes out. There's a time, especially around this period, people are going to wait a bit longer because they're looking for a deal. So you've got to figure out ways beyond remarketing. How do you get people's information to remind them of this awesome products or products that you sell before the
Mhm.
fact? And that's what's going to happen.
So, guys, if you don't see me looking at Michael, it's because A, he's given me some good ideas for our conversation. I like to take a lot of notes. I'm a nerd, so I take lots of
Yeah.
nerds, a lot of notes, a lot of nerdy notes. God, it's late in the day for me. All right, we're
Yeah.
gonna keep this going. So, a couple of things that came up for me. So, really great point on the remarketing audience. That's regardless of if you're a reseller or not, because I think one thing that we always forget, I think, as advertisers, is that big slump that's going to happen probably second half of December, or it's just in some cases December as a whole for a lot of advertisers. They've sort of just emptied the bucket of warm audiences.
Yeah.
Is not everyone is going to be happy with their purchase in November. So what I'm
Oh,
saying
yeah. Shit.
is if
Yeah.
you can at least get the interest in them coming to the site and maybe an email capture, but they don't convert, it might not be that you've lost the war. You might have just lost the battle, right? So what happens is you get that email and then you guys optimize your email funnels. So crucial. We talk about it all the time. And then it's very possible they went to somebody else to buy that product, but then they were very unhappy with that purchase. Guess what? Now you can hit them with a cheap, high quality, relevant remarketing ad, either
Yeah.
via email, which you should do, but also bringing them back to the site come November. And that's going to help you stabilize and keep some of those sales slumps from happening in December. So, really underutilized technique.
Hand up because I'm polite.
No.
So this is the also we're talking before the fact of getting the sale. There's also post fact issue. Number one, the more you sell, statistically, the more refunds you'll get in percentage wise and absolute. So if you usually sell 100 units of something a month and you get a 3% refund rate, you got three returning. If you sell 200 the next like that Black Friday, you're probably actually going to get a higher refund rate because people might just be emotionally buying. It tends to be at times, I don't know, I'm actually just saying stupid right now, but there's a probability that you'll get higher returns. The next thing is your stock levels. This is the thing. If you sell out of stock and like, let's just say, yeah, we sold all this stuff, but then what happens in December when you're trying to restock? I know a lot of clients that their supply lines are like literally like, even when it's their own product, they can't get it for 6 months.
Two,
And these
three,
are key
6 months.
products. So it's like,
Oh yeah.
would you prefer to get all these sales in one period of time and the profitability is, let's say, 10%, or get the same amount of sales over 3 months, but your
Mm-hmm.
profitability is like 40%? That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's like, it's not just, people just think this is just the, like, this is when I was originally saying about that ignorance of people around Black Friday. It's like, yeah, you can get most of your sales, and they're just thinking about like sales numbers and revenue. But a real business person understands, one, profit margin or profitability, absolute profit, and then also like supply line or fulfillment, which is like, what happens if you sell out of everything and it's your key
Mm-hmm.
product? What happens next
Yeah.
for the next 3 months? Like, you've gone from, you usually make 100K a month every month. Then one month you go, let's just say in Black Friday, you go 250. Yes, we're up. And the next month you're down to 20K because it's like, oh, we didn't plan. We don't have enough stock. We can't get it from the suppliers because they're selling it to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. Like, people really need to be like aware of their supply lines. And
Yeah.
most people think, oh, I've got too much stock, or it will be fine. It won't be, because I see this shit all the
Yeah.
time with really, really, really amazing business, like really smart businesses, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
people who I'm like, they're smarter than me. And that's hard to do. But even then, and it's like, because they don't predict the actual sales or growth, and then they just go, maybe like next year we don't do the sales. That's why I'm saying this stuff, because they realize
Mm-hmm.
they can get the sales, but the profitability or the profit they make is just not worth it in the end, because it affects their supply line over the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Really important. Really important.
Absolutely. We can make this a thing. We can just make this a thing.
You go, dude.
So that adds one other layer. There's one other layer I want to add to that, because that brings up a really good point of just, again, not just narrowing your focus and your analysis on what happens in November. Think about what happens in December. Think about what happens in October. And I think October always gets slept on, because we just make all these assumptions about, it's going to be a poor sales month, conversion rates are going to suck, it's going to be lower budgets, not as much data analyzed. Let's just kind of like expect what we've always expected, and just go into November with guns blazing. But let's talk about that, right? Because October, you are going into November, you're expecting your profit margins to be not your profits to go down, right? You're expecting, because of the percentage discounts are going to be so deep, you're not going to expecting such high profitability. Well, guess what? If you were to, instead of cutting all of your spends in October, keep funds pretty high for advertising and get those sales at a nice level for the business, you're offsetting to some degree
Yeah.
all that lower profitability going into November. So as an agency or a manager, think about this. You can include this in your conversations about, rather than us just dropping spends, which is, we're all going to say is going to hurt the algorithm. It's going to be, take longer to adjust the spends back to November, whatever. Also integrate that business knowledge in there, the sort of marketing 101s of, hey, you know what? Profits are going to suck in November. How about we help offset that by keeping spends at a pretty good level for October? Something I don't think is brought up enough.
Yeah. Well, this is why I said it's going to be not a debate, but we're going to have different angles, because it's not just a clear cut thing. People treat it
Yeah.
like it's so clear cut, and
Mm-hmm.
they actually do. Like, they're not just giving generic advice out there, be like, do this. It's like they actually genuinely believe it. When I see people on like LinkedIn say this stuff, I'm like, guys, like, I can tell you've like, and they all self admit that they've only been in the industry for a few years, but it's like, that's damaging to businesses. It's not just like an
Mm-hmm.
opinion, because you're setting like this expectation and hypnosis around this time of year that it should be like your prime time and everyone get ready for it. I actually think it's probably one of the worst times for business, because they're rather than just operating at their norm, like that they are comfortable with, everyone's telling them, no, you need to be operating up here at a higher expectation. You're putting more pressure on the business, lower profitability. And it's like, that's really hard for
Mm-hmm.
for retail. And people think like, oh, e-commerce is easy. Like, you're just selling a product. Like, the profit margins in e-commerce or like retail are not what they were like 5 years ago. CPM, CPCs, everything's gone up. More competitors come into the market selling the same product. So you got to be price competitive. So like the profit that was here is here. And then it's asking for more and more off. It's like, you've got to think about the consequences. And this is why we'll talk about in our next little bit, Cory, is about like, really being more of a business consultant and actually understanding data, or actually understanding money, more than just being like an ad strategist, because the ad strategist is like, honestly, it's the easy part for people like us. It's the easy part because it's very linear. You do this, you get that. You do this, you get that. But you've got to actually really understand the consequences of the decisions you're making strategically in the ad account and for the business, because it will affect the business. And
Yep.
people are like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll just do this, we'll get more revenue. It's like, yeah, but the business might actually lose money after that
That's the thing.
and
You
for the
can't
next
just
few
say, oh,
months.
yeah, you can't just say, oh, conversion rates are going up. Let's just spend more. It's not that simple. And if you're
Yeah.
not considering that business like it's your business, you're going to
Yeah.
probably mess something up. And that's
Yeah.
not a good place for you to be. Michael, before we wrap up this episode, I want to throw in a couple of big tips for people going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday. One is when you're doing your analysis, probably for your business, especially if you're an online retailer, look at November as this completely different segment of data. So don't compare it to October. I mean, like we said, you got to integrate those insights. You know, you want to consider it, but don't, month over month. You're not going to be like really looking at November versus October. You want to look at the transitions and the trends that you see, etc. But treat it as a unique data set in your historical performance data, right? So, a couple things. One that I look for that is really 80/20 is what products or product types or product categories or departments really outperform in November. And is that different than the rest of the year? You might be surprised. Don't make assumptions.
Mm.
Too many people I see make assumptions. Oh, yeah, rings tend to sell really good in Christmas. Look at the data. See if that's consistent year over year. And if it is, make sure that you have structure in your account that allows you to push that particular product type or department
Yep.
harder. That could be a separate campaign if you're using PMAX, because you can't
Yep.
do it at the asset group. My biggest complaint with Performance Max. Maybe it needs to live in a different shopping
Yep.
ad group, a standard shopping campaign, whatever. Don't forget search campaigns for specific Black Friday search terms. I see this missed all the time. If there is a noticeable amount of search volume behind very specific Black Friday deals for your products or services, make sure you're targeting those keywords as aggressively as you can, obviously within your profitability. And then last thing I'll throw in there, Michael, is just audiences. You may want to consider doing a nice little refresh of your PMAX asset group audiences with now usually PMAX audience signals are something more for the getting it going, a brand new campaign, but I don't think it's a bad idea to hit them with a refreshed audience just for the November audience. So you take essentially all of your historical data that you have, hopefully it's a lot, and you build an audience of just people who bought during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or November as a whole when you
Mm.
were running promotions. Create a unique customer list for that, upload it into Google, use that as an audience signal just for that time so that Google can also understand that, oh, maybe this is a little bit different than the normal customer that we see. Utilize some of those settings and those opportunities in the account. Really, really important to test those things out, see if it makes a difference for you.
Yeah, nice. And always
Mhm.
optimize your feed. Just remember at the end of the day, 80/20
Yeah.
with like e-commerce is like it's mostly the feed. And even in that, it's product titles, product descriptions, and even your categorizations or custom labels and product types. Like,
Mhm.
while sometimes these things can sound complicated, there is a simplicity to it.
Mhm.
Put custom labels on products. If they're high sellers, low sellers, overstocks, whatever they are, put them into
Mhm.
their own campaigns so they actually get delivery. That's one of the
Mhm.
biggest issues I'm seeing now is like companies with products that they want to sell or high profit products, they're just not being delivered because they're being cannibalized with other products. So make sure that you're strategically putting products in campaigns where you know they're going to get the appropriate delivery
Mhm.
and they're not going to be cannibalized.
Yep.
So recently, I've just done this literally 2 days ago. A client who's got 40,000 SKUs, and only like 1,000 of them have been getting impressions. So it's
Mhm.
like had to segment them down based on impressions, if they're getting clicks, their results, and then based on their product types, just to ensure the products are actually being seen. That's the worst thing
Exactly.
here. It's like you can do all this hard work, but if your product is not being seen on the Google feed, you're like, what's the point?
That's why you don't throw it all into one PMAX and
Yeah,
then call it a day.
yeah,
If you want to be an advanced advertiser and you want better results, you've got to think more granularly. Now, sometimes it might work better if it's all consolidated, but I usually
mm,
find that there's more to the story than that. So
yeah, yeah,
I'll leave it at that
yeah.
for now. But Michael,
It's
any other?
it,
Go ahead.
I'll just quickly say it's amazing when it just works when it's all consolidated, but when it doesn't work, which is most of the time, you're like, ugh. And then you got to start segmenting, and it's like,
Yep.
okay, so
Yep.
you got to. It's a bit of give and take with Google,
It's a
bit
bit
of
of a
give and
give and
take.
take. Anything else you want to add? I was just going to throw in a one really fast point about just checking diminishing returns. So if your products, if certain products are pretty steady because you've been selling them for years, the data is pretty steady. just try to figure out if you can, if you're capable with your own data analysis skills or using ChatGPT or whatever. Try to figure out for those products where in November you find that a point of diminishing returns where profitability starts going down at a certain level of spend. You might be able to help yourself in saving a few bucks here and there, and in some cases thousands of dollars by having an answer for that. Now it's not going to be perfect, but it's better than having nothing.
Yeah, awesome. Mate, I've got nothing else to add to
Okay.
that for now.
Okay.
Don't give me another 5 seconds because I'll start saying stuff.
All right, let's go into another segment here.
Excellent. So, Cory, as we're still going this right now, should we go into our second rant about ad specialties and business data analysis?
Yeah,
so I'll
please,
start
let's
this
do it.
as we're still rolling right now. So everyone, as you're watching this right now, Cory and I, we've been doing this for a long time, a very long time.
Yeah, look at
and
this.
things you learn over time is the things that you thought would make you or the account or the business successful are not. And you start to recognize there are a few consistent principles and things that you notice over time. One thing I've been noticing more consistently now than ever is ads is the easy part when you're good at ads, which Cory and I are. If you're not good at ads, you can't bypass this. But I'm spending probably 99% of my time with clients over emails talking about their business and their business data and things in their business further down the line or before advertising as well. And these are businesses who are going really well. They may have not been going well before they started working with us, but when they started working with us, they had a significant shift. 2 reasons why. Number one is if you don't understand the holistic impact of the business, the ads are not going to work. Like, even if the ads are going well, you won't get the results and the client won't be happy. And you're like, well, but I'm getting amazing results. That's not enough. And then number 2, if you don't actually understand the context of the business, the ads are not going to align with what their goals are. So we have recently had a business come to us last November, 11 months ago. And it took us about 10 months to kind of get them over the line. Now, this business was just doing Google ads and their cost per lead was around $400 and the conversion rate was about 0.1%. And they're selling a very high ticket product, around $60,000 to $85,000. Now, if I was just going, let's just do Google ads and I was just the ads person, I would be getting similar results. What I recognized was with their business and their products, they needed a different service. So we offered Google ads, meta ads, and a landing page. From day one, we've been live, I think like 15 days. Our cost per lead across the whole account is $30 at a 20% conversion rate. Lead quality is even better because we're getting name, email, phone number, location, what business they're from, and what their actual interest is and what industry they're in. So like qualified leads. Now, if I just came from the perspective of like, I just do Google ads, I'll be the Google ads expert, I would not be getting them the results. Because I took time to actually recognize what their business was and what they need is a different strategy and solution came. That's before I worked with the client. There are so many clients now. The other day I was on a client call for an hour and a half and the ads are going well, but their whole sales process is cooked. And they're getting about a 20x return on our advertising. So from like lead generation, 20x return in revenue and about 200x return in quotes. But I'm like to the guys, look, 1 in 10 of your quotes is turning into a sales. This isn't an ads issue. This is a sales issue. So we're going through the sales process and how like marketing, what we can do around that. Because if I'm just going, I'm the ads, we can change the ads, we'll change the messaging and hopefully that fixes the sales. That's never going to fix the sales. So you've got to take so many steps back to recognize that ads is not the panacea. It is just like one pill out of many magical pills. So Cory, that's me just starting off. What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, and it's your ranch, right? So I'll let you
Yes.
just flow through it. But one thing I had mentioned pre getting the recording started was, for a lot of advertisers, particularly in the lead generation space, we're talking to the client that hires you or whatever. If you're the advertiser doing it yourself, for a lot of lead gen, especially, you absolutely need someone that doesn't just look at the PPC, the paid search or Facebook, whatever they're doing for you. You can't just look at that in a vacuum and assess how the business is doing. You need to know your business metrics. You need to know your business objectives, and you need to be able to clearly communicate that to whoever is running these campaigns for you. Because otherwise, if you just take it at their word to say, okay, I'm an advertising specialist and I'll be able to make it work for you, but they're not asking these types of questions that make them sound like more of a business analyst than an advertiser. And if you're not being surprised every once in a while by a question that they're asking, go, yeah, you know what, we haven't looked at that before about our business or our numbers or whatever, that's probably a bad sign. You want someone that's doing those things. You
Yeah.
want someone that's asking those questions and is willing to challenge you to some degree to say, you know what, I'm not saying you're wrong, but have we looked at it from this angle? You want to be hearing those things because that's a business partner.
Yeah.
That's someone you can scale with, that you can, I know the word scale is thrown around a lot, but really that's someone you can grow with. That's a business strategic partner that you're going to want to keep for a long time. You're not going to want to just throw them away like that random agency that has a template for everything and they're spending more time in their sales processes than actually working on accounts. Those are going to be short-lived partnerships. That's why I always brag about my retention rate is like 3+ years. Because usually when clients find me, they're like, man, I've never ever had this level of quality and I've never seen so much value being added, and we're growing like crazy, and they just don't want to go anywhere because they just can't possibly find anything better. Sometimes they've looked and they admitted that, and they're like, yeah, you're the shit and we love you and we don't want to go anywhere. It's because I'm adding that level of value, because I'm asking questions that others are sometimes not willing or just able to ask. So yeah, I completely agree. I think advertising as a service becomes a vehicle for a lot of agencies for actually becoming a business analyst or just a business specialist in general. So very good points that you've made. Yeah.
Mate, I couldn't even agree with you more, like around the retention, because you get to the point where you look at the standard in the industry, and I look around, I'm like, there are so many people who are really good in this industry, and I can't compete against that. As in, I'm just saying I'm better. They're saying they're better. Like, I could say that I'm better than you, Cory. But there are things that you, Cory, do better than me that's not Google Ads. And there are things I do better than you that are not Google Ads. And that's the competitive edge. And that's what the clients actually need. Like, once they're like got the foundations of like the ad account is working, which is like you can't build a house on like sand. You need a good foundation. That's what ads is building the foundation. But that's it. Like the growth of it comes from like that foundation turning in from like the business analysis and strategy. And that's why like I've noticed that over the years, I've known a lot of good ads people, and I'm like, they were better than me, and now I'm better than them. But I'm like, they're spending every single day in Google Ads like 40 hours a week doing it. I'm not, but I'm getting better results. I'm like, so what is the difference? And the difference is the business intelligence. It is the data analysis. Like with clients that we work with, they're so happy with the results, but it's more the business analysis with the dashboards we build, and then the business insights and like that actual consultation. And consultation is kind of like such a used word, but it's like that expert, like expert just brainstorming and working together on such a high level that gets them. Because I'm like, no one's going to compete with me on that shit. Like no one. Like that is my hidden edge. Like I'm great at ads. Like I know strategy. I know the data so deeply, and I can present the data in a way that people need it. And I'm like, who am I going to compete against? The guy who just does ads? And then when the client's like, oh, yeah, but Michael did this like report, and he's like, oh, I don't know how to do that. It's like, cool. Well, the client doesn't have transparency. The specialist doesn't have transparency. So what are they going to be actually optimizing towards? And I could just say that to the client, what are they actually working on? Where's the data? How do you know? How do you know they're not lying to you? And it's like, and these things, by the way, even though I'm saying it, I'm not scared to give away these secrets because it's so hard to do. Like, Cory, you tell me about the hours and hours and hours of these deep data analysis, and you've been doing that for years, and it takes you hours. Things that take me 2 hours now used to take me 20 hours, and it's still 2 hours of my time. Like, this isn't something like you and I share right now. Like, damn, all these like other competitors are going to do it. Most people won't do it because it's actually quite hard. It's super important, but it's really hard. And you've got to treat it like I'm learning. If you wanted to learn Google skills and ads and master that, this is a completely different skill. And you've got to be like, I need to be spending as much time on that.
I was just going to add, I mean, let's be honest. Most agencies, we've met some of these people. You're just like clients are just another number. It's just adding to the bank account. They don't really care about the success of the business. They sometimes even know like, I know I should be asking these questions, but blah, blah, blah. And they fill in.
But I'm busy. I'll do it next week.
Yeah. So they're not really invested. They just want to make money. This is
Yeah.
like a day job for them, or if they're running an agency, it's just a way to make a bunch of money. But do they actually
Yeah.
care about the people on the other side of the phone call? They actually care about that business? I don't tend to see it. It just tends to be sort of a fly by night business approach, or they just they're in this industry for a couple of years. They want to be a guru, and then they move on to something else.
Yeah.
Michael and I have been doing this a long time. You could call us gurus because we do podcasts and we do features and stuff like that. But I mean, honestly, we're both really nerdy at this. We're not just
Yeah.
guru based. Like, we really enjoy doing it. We like what we get to offer businesses. And so I think that is something else to look out for when you're looking at agencies. Is you're not, and this isn't just one big sales position. We're just being honest with you guys. You need to be looking out for those signs that, does it feel like you're just another number? Are they just giving you a template for everything? Are they just saying, oh yeah, we have this system down, we have it, we do it this way for everybody? That's probably not a good thing. There should be some customization that's involved in strategies and tactics. So anyway, that's my little tangent on it.
No, I agree, mate. It's and that's the reality. Most people working in agencies, it's just a job to them, and they've jumped from one industry to the next. They're not, and they'll go to another industry. Like 95% of people I've met in agencies have come from another industry, not agency, like advertising, and then they leave to go another place. Like it's a very, for people, it's a very transitional industry, but like but for clients, it's an unforgiving industry. Like the money, you're not going to get that mismanaged ad spend back from a specialist. You're not going to get that time back from like the wrong account manager, like someone giving you strategy. And I even just like the other day, I had someone book in a call with me, and I just knew she wasn't going to be the right fit. She was an interior designer, and I still got on the call. I was like, I have this thing where I'm like, I just want to help everyone because I just trust, like, life's been amazing to me. If I'm just more giving to people, good things come back. And she was an interior designer in Sydney, and she was telling me like, oh, I've spoken to so many agencies and this, and I literally said at the start of the call to her, I'm like, I'm not going to try and sell you today, and I don't think you're the right fit for me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you so much value that you're not going to pay those other agencies thousands of dollars and wasting your money. This is how you do it. And in 15 minutes, I gave her the whole strategy. She sent me an email afterwards being like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, wow. And then even after that, I sent her a quick Loom video walking through an ad account being like, make sure it's this, 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 and this, and this. So in less than 20 minutes, I've just given more value of someone who's spent like $100 million in ads, who's actually doing the results, than these other agencies. Because I know at the end of the day, she's just going to be taken for a ride. She's going to be given to a junior because her budget wouldn't be high. She wouldn't be able to pay high management fees. Yeah, a junior who like hasn't had experience in that industry. Number two, her budget wouldn't be high. I knew her budget would be high. Number three is then her management fees wouldn't be high. So why would they prioritize her? And then number four, like she's probably in a contract for like, I don't know, amount of time. And I know the path ahead. I'm just like, here's free value, do it yourself. And I said to her, you will waste the money, but that money that you wasted is your learning, not someone else's learning. And it's actually quite simple. And then she did what I said. And I was like, the account looked really amazing. I'm like, you're going to kill it. But I know that because I know those, like, there's thousands of things you can do in Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever. I told her, do these three things that I know work every single time for lead generation, every single time. And I'm not going to reveal them on these calls because, like, that is my secret sauce. But I know she's going to kill it and get heaps
just
of
for fun, but you're good.
And
awesome.
No conversion targeting, unlimited budgets, dynamic ads in whatever format that Facebook or Google say.
Optimized based on optimization score.
Oh, yes. Broad match everything.
To make yourself feel good. Yeah.
Broad match interior and just broad match design and just see what comes in.
And remarketing is not necessary, so just skip that too. You don't need negatives.
And just target Australia wide because like people in like the other side of the country might be in like Sydney at some time in their life and might have like a $10 million property.
Guys, we are joking. Just a disclaimer, please don't think that was the real advice and you go mess up your accounts and blame us.
But that's the reality of like talking about this expertise stuff is like I spend so much time reflecting on how we communicate, communication styles, strategy styles, and I spend more time on that than actual advertising strategies because I know the strategies. I know they work. They're going to continue to work. But the thing is that people change and you got to realize more success comes from the relationship with the person and the data insights from the business than the ad account. But that's if you want to be working with businesses who actually want to grow and you want to make a lot of money from them. Because if you just want to be paid like a little bit of money, yes, just be the ads person. If you want to be paid a lot of money, be that expert that you can't replace and you're offering way more value than the ad account.
Yep. Yeah, you can't just be talking about and asking questions about your PPC stuff. You got to be asking the
Oh,
business about their business. That is what's
yeah,
going to inform your
yeah.
PPC strategies and tactics.
The
So,
most data I'll ever give clients on a high level is lead volume, cost per lead, and then maybe ad spend and return on ad spend. That's it. Like, because like those numbers are like the pinnacle of the mountain, and if they're good, everything good. We talk about something else. If they're off, we can go deeper. But they don't need to be knowing about what campaigns this, that. It's like I don't need them knowing that. I don't need to be wasting their brain space with the technicals of the advertising. I just need to show them this is your data. It's going well against our benchmarks. What's happening in business, or here's the data. There's been a significant change. What's happening in your industry, or what's happening in your business, and how can we align with it? Because if we go too deep with a client, you just take them on these like little side quests that just lead to hell, and you're wasting time, money, and their business owners like this their mental RAM. Like respect people's brain space.
yeah. But Michael, I just watched this YouTube video from so and so agency, and they're saying that everybody should do this. Do you think we should
Yeah,
do that?
man. Yeah, dude. I do. I
Don't you
will
have
never
time to
take on
do
those.
other things?
I will not take on clients who tell me about what other people are doing because it's like focus on your business,
Focus on the
dude.
business. Yeah.
Like
Let me
just let me
focus
make you
on
money.
PPC tactics, strategies, the
Yeah,
weird, specific, technical stuff.
yeah,
Let your advertiser handle that. That is no longer
yeah,
necessary for you to do it. Now, if you used to do it, I can understand wanting to kind of hold on to that. You enjoy it, whatever. But
yeah.
honestly, that shouldn't be part of those conversations unless you feel like you're just like, hey, have you thought about this? You probably have, but just want to throw it out there. Here's this thing, this idea. But really, you should be trusting and giving autonomy to the person you are paying to run these
Yeah.
accounts for you. Yep.
But at the same time, Corey, I actually disagree with you. With us, they should. With most people, they should be holding their face to the fire.
That's true. That's
Because
a good
if
point. Yeah, know your advertiser.
I'm
That's a
actually
good
going to
point.
say, like, actually,
Yeah.
like, we've got to stop projecting our reality view on things because the reality is, mate,
Yeah.
you ask people, like, when people say this stuff to me, even clients or people in their team, I was like, ask that they say stuff, and I'm like, that sounds correct, but maybe it sounds a bit off. And I'm like, okay, if I just trust them, then I ask them one more degree of question or a different layer of question, and then they have nothing to back. I'm like, I'm glad I asked that because I was going to make a lot of decisions based on that, what they just said to me. And now that I've asked a separate degree of question or a lower degree of like another layer of questions, and it's not backed by anything, I'm not going to follow that. Why would I start believing stuff based on that it's actually not based on anything?
Are you referring to like the guru content that's like the clients might look at stuff like that?
Every no. So it's more like the clients, like if someone in the team's like, oh, we saw this, like our
Right.
business is going like this, and I'm like, okay, but what about this? Or like, tell me more about it. And they're like, oh, we don't know. Or they're like, the leads are not good. I'm like, okay, what specifically about the leads?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
we don't know.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so you're telling me to change the whole strategy based on that you say the leads are not good, but what
Yeah.
specifically about them, you can't tell me. Have you documented it? No. So you're telling me the things that on my end, everything's really good, the ads are clear, the landing page is clear, all this stuff, and you're just saying the leads are not good. It might be your sales process. It might be you as a salesperson.
Yeah.
Like if you're telling me the leads are not good, and then like, oh, it's the price. It's a premium price. I'm like, I know. You can't, if people are coming expecting to pay this price and you're offering this, no wonder there's a gap. This is your job to keep bridging the gap of the value proposition.
Right.
That's not ads.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't get from one Facebook, Google ad and a landing page, people going, yes, I'm going to like throw down all this money just because the ad and the landing page got me all hot and heavy. That doesn't work. That's the salesperson's job or the email marketing to nurture people and perceive the value. So that these are those things. What I'm saying is keep questioning things because people who seem qualified will say shit and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you start to realize they don't know. It's the same if you work a job. If you ever worked a job and you look at your managers or your CEOs or whatever, and you're like, oh, they're in a high position. They must be smarter than me. And as time goes on, you realize these people are idiots. They're just in a position of power. That they're not any smarter. They're just in a different role that maybe gets paid more or they've got more authority downwards. But it doesn't mean they're actually more technically or like understand things more. Like
Yeah.
the more I get through life, it's like the higher someone is, the lower their education skills on anything.
Yeah, you talk to any software engineers or any amount of software engineers long enough, they'll tell you the people that are running their scrums and their project managers, they don't know anything about
Yeah,
code,
dude.
but they're the ones telling them to
Yeah.
stop putting so many comments in the code. So it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's across industries and definitely good advice. So
Mm.
anyway, Michael, we should wrap this up because we are running out of time. We got
Yeah, I
one
know.
last segment. Any other last minute thoughts? Are we
Mate,
good to
that's
go?
it. That's definitely a rant. So I reckon
Awesome.
that was a good little segment because I think once again, people don't gaslight yourself by other people's opinions, but also make sure that you realize like ads is not the final destination. It's not. It's like the first step of like a 5-step process. Like don't think by mastering ads you're mastering the universe. You're not. There's so much more to it than that.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to move us on to our hot topic of the day. Now, Michael has something similar, I believe, to what I usually have, which is change logs. So this is going to be our hot tip. Now, why do I mention this is not the sexiest thing in the world, change logs? What is he
Yep.
talking about? So when I get into an account, say I transition from one client to another client, I'm thinking, okay, I want to get in the space of what's going on with the data, what's going on with the business, right? Those two things should be considered at the same time, ladies and gentlemen. We just talked about that on the last rant. But when I'm getting into that, I think, well, what's been going on, right? Because any good data analyst, which again, don't kid yourself, if you run campaigns for a living, you're a data analyst. If you're not looking at data enough,
Yep.
well, you're probably not doing your job. But my
Yep.
point is, you should be looking at the data and saying, what is going to influence this data that I'm going to look at, right? Is the data clean? Blah, blah, blah. But for
Yep.
advertisers and businesses, you need to be thinking about, okay, what has been done recently? What are the major changes? That's why I really, really recommend, I think of it as an absolute requirement, necessity. And I do this with my consulting clients as well. Like, we need to start a change log. Start a spreadsheet for your account or for the accounts that you run. Have a date column, have a change column, and ideally, if you can, put a reason for the change. Probably a good idea because, let's be honest, you might have a great memory, but why did you make that change a year ago or even 3 months ago? Sometimes you just get busy and you're like, why did we change the bidding strategy? Just put a few notes in there. And if you want to be a superstar, you can put in the results of those changes. Now, I know a lot of people get really lazy on that and they don't actually
Yeah.
follow up with the changes. They just sort of go 1 week at a time or 1 month at a time. So crucial to have a change log. So that way, before I look at all the data and I get lost in the anomalies and the distributions of the data and what are the trends, etc., I know that, okay, on this exact date, we made a structural change to the campaigns. Okay, well, let's see how that's been going. Check in on that. Okay, now let's say, oh, you know what we had on this date, and you should have this collaborative document with your client, with the business owners. You guys should all share a document that says we changed inventory for these products or all inventory products. We ran a sale on this date. You guys should all be in the know, and it makes your reporting calls, extra tip, a lot easier to have this all tracked. And then I'm going, okay, what else has changed recently? And then I'm looking at the trends. Okay, it looks like month over month things are down for these key metrics. Well, what happened last month? Check the change log. Don't be digging through the change history. Don't say, Cory, we got a change history in the account. If you've been doing this long enough, you do not want to be expanding all those things, trying to figure it out and going like, wait, because it's not always clear. Google Ads sort of description for things, target return on ad spend was 600%. It doesn't say it is now maximized conversion value. It just says target return on ad spend was 600%. That's terrible insight. Keep your own notes, and the change history will also not tell you why did you change it, because that is so crucial. I said it's ideal to have a reasoning, but honestly, I think it should be a requirement in the document. Why did we do that? Why did we do a promotion? Right? Why did we do that flash sales? Because we needed to really push that particular size because we were overstocked. What was the reason behind that? That can also help you over time and help avoid recency bias, which is a really big thing in marketing. So that is my little mini rant hot tip for you guys. Make sure you have a change log. It is going to be so awesome to have it. If you've never had it before, it's going to really add a ton of value to your daily management. Michael, thoughts?
Awesome. Yeah, I think especially if you're managing a lot of accounts, you do want to know why you're making changes and what you're doing. Now, I have a really good memory, but that's the problem is like I rely on that too much. I always think about what are the simple things you can do. Create a Loom video of you just like when you're in the account or after you've done it and make a change and then send it to your EA and just go, can you just create summary notes and put this in a spreadsheet? Like sometimes the manual writing is too much, especially if you could just do like literally a 20-second video of going, I did this, 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 and this. It might save you like 3 or 4 minutes. And sometimes it's just the laziness that gets in our way. It's not the capability. Okay, the writing the stuff down is actually easy. It's about the mental muscle of like having a process around it. I just like, even just saying it now, I've done this for a long time, then I stop and then I start. And a lot of times what I do is I just record Loom videos, give it to my EA, and then he will just document it. That way, my brain is like, works really fast. So like when I'm writing stuff, like even when I'm in spreadsheets and I'm doing deep data analysis, even though that seems like a slow process, my brain's like writing formulas fast and looking at data fast. It's like doing stuff to slow down just to manually type can be a
Yeah,
lot
you
for
got to
people,
find a
especially.
balance. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
figure out ways that you can do this. I completely agree, because you need to document it, and document it for yourself, not the client, because if the client leaves, like, you don't want to give them
Right,
all
you
your
don't want that.
notes. But what you do want is, so when you just jump on before a call, you're like, cool, we've done this, this, and this, and this. And then you might go, I'll quickly spot check that data. Cool, I know it. And within 30 seconds, you've seen what we've done this month, the last 3 months. You've seen the trends mentally, and your unconscious or subconscious mind will know the paths. It's sometimes just reminding yourself rather than going to the account back, what the hell did I do?
Right. Yep.
I'm not like that at all. Like, I literally know the data for every single client across the business. Like, I'm like, I probably know too much data in my head than I should, but that's not, most people are not like that, and they need to just document it. So,
And that's really error prone to error. So you got to be careful,
yeah,
right? Because we make assumptions, and we have that day where we didn't have enough coffee or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden, you didn't think that you had just changed that a week ago. Who knows?
yeah,
Things happen. Definitely, I'd say for 99% of you guys, make sure you're tracking things, and even if you're not tracking the changes in the account, just keeping a site change log with the client can be awesome. When
yeah,
did we change inventory for what? When did pricing change? What promotions were ran and when? And what were we thinking about when we ran it? Those are really valuable insights to track over time. And actually, you can pick up on some tendencies in sort of the client behavior and your behavior as well with the account. So it can be really, really interesting to track that stuff over time and say, you know what, maybe we are running too many promotions in the summer because we start thinking about XYZ. Maybe we would need to try not doing that and see what happens. So anyway,
yeah.
really good tip for you guys. Again, I think it's not talked about enough because it's not really the sexiest thing in the world. And, building a script for that, it's a whole thing. So yeah, I would really recommend it for you guys. Definitely keep it in mind.
Awesome. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap this up. So, Cory, how can
Yes.
people find you, mate?
All right, adsbycory.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and YouTube, also Spotify for PPC Unfiltered. We'll be getting some more episodes up there. Sorry about the delay, everybody. We've just been busy. Things have been chaotic
Yeah.
over the last few months, but we're getting back on track. We appreciate all of your patience. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all the things, share with your friends. And family, because sometimes people want a new industry to get into,
Yeah.
right, Michael? So
Nice, mate.
awesome,
Nice.
Michael. Where can people find you, sir?
MarketLead.com.au, Michael Nadalin on LinkedIn, PPC Unfiltered, and all these other companies that I run as well. But most importantly, on this podcast.
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys. Well, this was a really good episode. We mostly spoke more about strategy and higher level stuff, but I feel like this is where the juice is in the industry now. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, Cory. So thanks for your time, mate. Really
Yeah,
enjoyed
lots
it.
of fun. Yeah, thank you, Michael. All right, guys,
Bye.
we'll catch you next week.